Today, Junior?
Welcome to Banging the Can, the Houston sports show that does not apologize for championship rings and tings, presented by Bolen Media. I am your host, Ross Bolen, and we are starting today with some heartwarming positivity, whether you like it or not, because I got to take my son to his first Astros game on Friday night, and it literally could not have gone better. I had bought tickets in section 127, which ain't bad, but on our way to the game, I got a DM from a can banger, one of our listeners or viewers, whatever, telling me he could hook me up with some Diamond Club tickets, which for those of you who are like me and too poor to know what that means, it's where you see owner Jim Crane sitting behind home plate. It's where you see the Fertittas sit and Bagwell and Biggio, the cushy seats with Phillips 66 logo on them. So yeah, for my 1-year-old son's first Astros game, we got to chill in some of the best seats in the house and enjoy free food in the Diamond Club, and it was fucking incredible. My mom and dad were there with me too, and my wife. Huge shout out to Coach Graham, the GOAT, for his hospitality, making what was going to be a special night for me and my family anyway just that much more special. We may have set the bar too high for my kids. I had to repeatedly explain that these are not the seats that we will normally be sitting in, but we had an absolute blast. For those of you who watched on Friday night, you know, incredible game. One of the best, if not the best of the season. Ronel Blanco was solid, but gave up a season-high 3 runs. Seth Martinez got the win. Josh Hader got the save. The Astros scored 4 runs in a huge 7th inning to take the lead, one of which came from a go-ahead RBI bunt single from Jose Altuve. Then Jose got his 300th career steal, so we got to see some history. There were some crazy errors. Jeremy Pena went flying into the stands on a catch that ended up being made in left field by Joey Loperfido. We saw an intense pickle play out, resulting in a double play, saving Ryan Presley's inning. This game had everything, but most importantly, it had an Astros win at the end. Unfortunately, that was the first game of the series. The Astros dropped the final 2 games of the series 5-0 and 5-4 to the Mariners and are still tied with the Angels for last place in the AL West at 12 wins and 22 losses, 7 games back of the first place Seattle Mariners as a result of losing those 2 games to them. Not great. Not ideal. The Sunday night loss was particularly painful as Brian Abreu surrendered the tying run in the 8th inning, and then Josh Hader gave up the go-ahead run in the 9th inning. This team, the Astros, is experiencing an extremely frustrating season thus far. That goes without saying, but I'll tell you, watching them in person, looking at the roster, and seeing that they have the 2nd best team batting average in baseball, the 5th best on base percentage, 7th in home runs, 6th in slugging. It's absolutely insane that they are losing as much as they are. Like, this team has the talent. They seem to have the personnel. There is no reason they should be losing this many games, and whether you like it or not, a lot of this year so far has been bad breaks, bad luck. Like, sure, Jose Abreu needed to go. He needed to take some time off. He was a disaster, so you get him out of there. And yes, Bregman could and should be doing better. He has to do better. Being able to predict that Bregman will pop out every single time there is a runner in scoring position is not ideal. So it's not that there haven't been some issues. There have. But we're talking Jose Altuve, Kyle Tucker, Yordan Alvarez, Jeremy Pena, who's playing like an all-star again this year, Mauricio Dubon, Yanier Diaz, and Victor Caratini. The sticks are there. They have the hitters. And the hitters are producing for the most part. Hell, even John Singleton has turned it on. They're still struggling too much with runners in scoring position, but the hitters are there. They are there to hit the ball, which for the most part they're doing. If we're being real, and we are, the problem with this team has been pitching. First, the health of the starting pitching rotation has been a problem the entire season so far. They started the year without Verlander or Luis Garcia or Jose Urquidy, and you can throw Lance McCullers Jr. in there too. Then Framber got hurt. Christian Javier got hurt. I mean, the starting pitching has been a disastrous carousel of injuries. But if you have all those guys healthy, Verlander, Framber, Javier, Urquidy, Blanco, Luis Garcia, throw LMJ in there, that's one hell of a starting pitching rotation, is it not? Right? Right. But here's the biggest problem with the Astros, and everyone knows it. I will tell a story to illuminate my point before I make my point. So I've got my 1-year-old son and my 5-year-old stepdaughter at the game on Friday night in the Diamond Club, living the high life. Both kids, by the way, performed valiantly. Made it all the way to the bottom of the 8th before it became clear we had to leave before total meltdowns ensued. The game started at like 7:05 or whatever, right? So it's well past their bedtime at this point. And it just became we had to go. So my wife and I, we make our way out of our seats with the kids. We leave my parents to enjoy the final half inning of the game, which I did catch on the walkout for the record. But the point is, on our way out of the stadium, we get near left field, and I see Jim Crane pacing around by himself. Solo. Jim Crane, the owner of the team, who I saw earlier in the evening in our section, obviously. He's out in the left field concourse, just walking solo dolo nervously as the bottom of the 9th starts to unfold with the Astros holding a 2-run lead. Now, it's entirely possible that Jim Crane does this every game. Maybe that's his style. Maybe that's the area of the stadium he likes to go peruse when the 9th inning is upon us. That is possible, but I found it to be particularly telling that he was so nervous about his closers with a 2-run lead that he's out there in left field with the rest of the peasants pacing around nervously, eating a fucking Dippin' Dots or whatever he had. The point is, while it worked out on Friday night, our relief pitching is the problem. We all know it. Dana Brown knows it. Jim Crane knows it. Sure as shit knows it. According to Michael Schwab, Josh Hader, Ryan Presley, and Brian Abreu have a collective 26 runs they have surrendered this year. 26 runs between those three guys. And a collective ERA of 5.32. I would note the Astros are 1-9 in 1-run games because we have 8 blown saves. 8 blown saves, which is the second worst in Major League Baseball. That is the real story of this team so far in 2024. You could hang up the first couple of weeks. We had a lot of games where the starting pitching was giving up way too many runs. To be sure, you could hang a lot of those games on the starters, but for the most part, for the bulk of the season, the biggest issue and the largest surprise for the team and the fans this season has been the fact that our relief pitching is ass, and we have the second most blown saves in Major League Baseball. We went into this season thinking we'd have the best bullpen in baseball, and it turns out we have one of the worst. That is hard to hide. It is hard to process, and it is very, very tough to win baseball games when that is the case. And I think at this point, with as many games as we have seen unfold, we can safely say that demoting Ryan Presley and making Josh Hader the closer, while an understandable decision on paper, has backfired horrendously. That was 3 consecutive years of Presley being one of, arguably the best closer in baseball, especially in high leverage situations. And it backfired to demote him and bring in an outside arm, a big signing, a big offseason splash that looked like it was going to fortify the bullpen and make it potentially the best in baseball. And look what happened. It backfired. And I think at this point, we can safely say that letting Hector Neris walk and letting Stanek and Maton walk was a mistake. So all that said, I think at this point, we can safely say that Dana Brown's tenure as GM has been pretty fucking bad so far. It has been. I'm not saying it's going to stay that way, but it has been bad so far. And there are those of you who will still blame Bagwell or Jim Crane, but listen, the job is the job. Dana Brown is the one with the title of general manager, and at the end of the day, personnel issues fall at his feet. Having a rookie manager in Joe Espada did not and has not helped matters. But the biggest issues this team is facing are the result of off-season decisions that should be made by the general manager, Dana Brown. Because while the starting pitching and all this bad luck with the health has been a problem, the thing that has failed us most has been the three arms at the back end of the bullpen that we thought would be potentially the strongest suit of this team this season. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like Dana Brown needs to be on the hot seat. I know I said some things on Twitter at Banging the Can on X, formerly known as Twitter, in the heat of the moment. But if you're Dana Brown and you're in the offseason and you're looking at the guys that are up for free agency or up for contract renewal and you're looking at the two arms and then the third you bring in Josh Hader, you had to feel pretty fucking good looking at Brian Abreu, Ryan Presley, and Josh Hader as your three dudes to close out ball games. You had to feel pretty good. Well, I know we all did as fans. We all bought in. I mean, there's no reason for us not to. There was no way you could have predicted that Josh Hader would be as bad as he has been so far. And I feel bad. It seems like a nice guy. I don't like having to sit up here and talk shit, but like it's sports. The performance is what matters. And his performance, Josh Hader, has been less than we'd hoped for by a large margin. Arguably the best left-handed closer in baseball last year. He has been dog shit. Terrible. Blowing saves left and right all willy-nilly. It's been embarrassing. And have the bats helped him in these situations? Maybe not, but like too many of these close games, what did we like 1-8 or whatever in one-run games? That's been because we've blown 8 fucking saves. Most of those games we lost by 1 run. And it's been brutal to watch. And that's it. I mean, it's everybody wants to find like some complicated reason or talk about, the guys who've got to step up. I've been doing it for weeks now with y'all. But now that I've sat in the stadium and looked at the team in person and reminded myself of how talented they are, offensively certainly, how talented their pitching rotation would be if all healthy, health hasn't been an excuse for the closers. And you look at those three dudes in Brian Abreu, Ryan Presley, and Josh Hader, and that's where the bulk of the disappointment this season has come in. It's the place you have to point your finger if you're looking for someone to blame or an area to blame. It's those three dudes. This has been a mess in terms of closers. In terms of middle relief, it hasn't been great either, but my God. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And to close out our Astros talk for today, when I was walking out of the stadium, out by left field, and I saw Jim Crane, we walked right past each other, locked eyes, okay? And as he got close, as he approached me with his little treat, I gave him the nod of respect, like the head nod. I hit him with, I know who you are. I'm a huge fan of the team. I'm wearing my throwback fucking Mitchell and Ness fancy Craig Biggio jersey, right? And I hit him with the head nod. Did not acknowledge me. And then my wife is walking a few feet behind me. He winked at her. And then we lost the next 2 games. I'm just saying. In Texans talk, apparently J.J. Watt is still open to returning to the Texans if absolutely needed, in his words, which is interesting. Here's the quote, full quote from CBS Sports from J.J. Watt. I'm a very fortunate, lucky man. I have a beautiful wife. I have a beautiful son. I had 12 great years in this league, and I'm very thankful to have walked away healthy and playing great. Watt said on Saturday via Sports Radio 610 in Houston when asked how he resists the allure of coming out of retirement to play for the Texans. He continued, quote, I told D'Amico last year, I said, don't call unless you absolutely need it. But if you ever do call, I'll be there. And he knows not to call unless he absolutely needs it. This is the last year I'll tell him that because I'm not going to keep training the way I've been training. But he knows that if he ever truly does need it, I'll be there for him. I don't anticipate that happening. They've got a very good group. He went on to say, quote, I very much don't want that ever to be the case. I hope everybody stays extremely healthy and they dominate and they don't need any other bodies. And I just get to watch and enjoy from the couch. Now, obviously, there was some talk of this last year's potential return, and I think as the season rolled on, it became more and more obvious that was not actually going to be something that occurred. But the team improved by strides, it would seem, even in this offseason. We are now one of the favorites in the AFC. Nick Caserio, the Texans general manager, has said J.J. Watt has an open door if he wants to return. And then today, D'Amico Ryans, when given this quote from J.J. Watt that I just read about Watt, saying, only call me if you absolutely need it, D'Amico joked that he needs him now and that he absolutely needs him, and it's J.J. Watt, and how could you say no to that? And so I just think it's because Watt, the specific thing about his quote here that really piqued my interest is that he has continued to train in case they need him, and that this will be the last year he does that. And it's the first year that we're one of the Super Bowl favorites in the history of the franchise. And, JJ, the way things ended with him in Houston was a bummer. That was a bummer. It was the fucking Bill O'Brien era from hell. Get shipped to fucking Arizona, playing out there with D-Hop, where they never actually accomplished all that much. And it was just kind of sad to see him have to go play anywhere else other than Houston, and it would be incredible to have him back, even if almost, as like a sort of a mascot, right? Like an honorary position or whatever. But I also have no doubt that he could be effective in short spurts on the football field still. So it is interesting just because if the Texans, tough schedule this upcoming season, everybody knows that. It's going to be rough. It's going to be a gauntlet. But if the Texans can get enough momentum going into the postseason, I don't know what the cutoff is with the NFL. I can't even remember. But if they can get him on the team for a postseason run, see what he's got left in the tank, make a push for the Super Bowl, it would be the stuff of fairy tales. I mean, as Texans fans, we would lose our fucking minds. Just having him there in a jersey with a helmet alone, even if he didn't play that much, the energy that would bring to the stadium would be palpable. So it's just something to keep an eye on because we all wanted things to end on a better note with J.J. Watt. He's been so supportive of the city and of the franchise, even when I'm not sure anybody still should have been. And he's shown, how much the Texans mean to him. He's joined the Ring of Honor with Andre Johnson, and I would fucking love this so much. There's so many spots on the roster. Like, do we need all those guys? You can't fit JJ in there. So I'm not saying he needs to be there at the beginning of the season, but, if the opportunity presents itself, and it sounds like everybody that needs to be entertaining this is actually entertaining this, it would be so sick to see JJ in a Texans uniform for just one last ride, just one last hurrah. We need it. I need it to happen. Okay, I have to bounce back to the Astros for a second, unfortunately. I'll still end on a positive note, but Hunter Brown. This is another dude that I'm like, I feel bad, but goddamn your ass. He cannot. When the rest of these pitchers are back healthy, Hunter Brown's got to go, or put him in middle relief. Give him an inning or two when needed or whatever. But he cannot be a starting pitcher anymore. We've seen enough. We all got brought in hook, line, and sinker with all these fucking Justin Verlander comparisons and videos of their throwing motions side by side and the allure of the idea that Verlander being back on the team last season would give somehow Hunter Brown a boost, that this veteran that he modeled his game after would be there to coach him up and make him the next Justin Verlander. That is never going to fucking happen. It is over. We have seen enough. The dude is incapable of getting through the first 3 innings of a baseball game without giving multiple runs up. He can't do it. The other night, he got through the first inning somehow by some fucking miracle, and then he had his meltdown in the second inning. It's inevitable. Every time he starts, we end up in a hole. And we're in a hole most of the games we played this season, and it's fucking killing us. So when we've got all those names back that I said earlier, dudes that haven't been healthy, Kade, Garcia, Javier, Hunter Brown's got no fucking business being in the starting rotation, and I'm sorry to have to say that. I was rooting for him just like everybody else. I wanted him to take big steps and be the next big thing. Why the fuck wouldn't I? I'm a huge Astros fan, but he hasn't done it. He simply hasn't done it. And we've gotten to the point where I can't take... Every time he's pitching, I have horrible anxiety just knowing this is probably not going to go well. I don't like watching baseball that way. It's miserable. He's killing me out there, man. I don't know what the fuck to say, like, in terms of coaching him up or, like, if the Verlander thing is just not getting through to him. I don't know. But all I know is that he cannot be in the starting rotation anymore if we have the rest of those guys healthy, which sounding like in the coming month, 2 months, should absolutely happen. So Hunter Brown has got to get out of that starting rotation or I'm going to lose my motherfucking mind. And to close on a positive note, happy birthday to Jose Altuve, who turns, 34 today? 1990? Yeah, May 6, 1990. 34 years old. Happy birthday, Jose. We love you, but you know that. That'll do it for today's show. Remember, every episode of Banging the Can is available not only on all of the major podcast platforms for your listening pleasure, but also on youtube.com/@bangingthecan for those of you who would prefer to watch rather than just listen. If you're here watching on YouTube now, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a comment below. I appreciate you. That's how we grow the show. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever, please rate and review. 5 stars, write a couple sentences about why you like Banging the Can. And then if you don't mind, go to youtube.com/@bangingthecan. Go ahead and subscribe. It helps us out. Even if you're not going to watch, I would appreciate it very much if you would do that to support our show. On that note, please share the most unapologetic Houston sports show in existence with your friends and family. Word of mouth is the number one way to grow this thing. We need y'all's support to be able to do what I do, what we do. So please do that. Tell your friends, tell your family, Banging the Can. Follow us on social media at Banging the Can on TikTok, Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter, Threads, if you're one of those people, at Banging the Can on all the social mediums. Support our sponsors. Obviously, we had a new one today. Links, codes, and details for sponsors in the episode description below. If you're on YouTube, sometimes we'll have a sponsor that doesn't adhere to YouTube's, platform standards or whatever, and we have to remove them, but they're on the audio side of things. So if you're listening, make sure you click the link in the description below and use that code to support our sponsors. Check out the other shows that Bolen Media has to offer by either going to bolenmedia.com or just listening to me now. First off, if you're an F1 fan, we've got Formula Bone, B-O-N-E, Formula Bone, which is Jared J-Bone Borislow giving you the finest F1 coverage available in all of the world, in my opinion. Go to youtube.com/@Formula Bone and subscribe with over 130,000 other subscribers. Follow @Formula Bone on all the social media platforms and keep up with all the excitement in the world of F1. Crazy race this weekend at the Miami Grand Prix. Someone won, not named Max Verstappen, which is always fun for the sport of F1. Formula Bone, check it out, support it. I've also got the Ross Bolen podcast, which is hosted by me. We do a lot of comedy and interviews and mental health talk and life stuff and crazy headlines and stuff to Wikipedia when you're high. We have a lot of fun on what is known as RBP. Check out the Ross Bolen podcast wherever you enjoy Banging the Can. And finally, Oysters, Clams, and Cockles is our TV and film podcast that was started back in the day as a Game of Thrones podcast in 2016, hosted by myself and another born and bred Houstonian, Mr. Barrett Dudley. This upcoming June 16th, House of the Dragon Season 2 returns, and we hope Oysters, Clams, and Cockles will be your go-to companion podcast for all of the insanity that occurs in House of the Dragon this upcoming season. I'm Ross Bolen. You can follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram at WRBOLEN. I got some good pictures from the stadium and my experience in the old Diamond Club this past weekend. So check out my Instagram at WRBolen. And yeah. Go Astros. We hope things get better. It's been tough. It's been pretty tough. I'll be back next week. Until next time, H-Town, stay down.